And we're looking at a bill which will respond to the difficult credit crunch that exists in Ohio right now. If you look at what has happened, businesses across the state, particularly small businesses across the state, are having difficulty getting credit, having either their credit lines renewed or finding credit for expansion or even maintenance of their businesses. In part, that's because banks have cut back on their lending. So if, for example, in the past you would have financing done, say, 50% by the private sector and 50% by a bank, that bank may have contracted now to only do 15% of a project, leaving a 35% hole. It's that hole that has created the credit crunch for many businesses, and we are looking at ways as a state to help businesses by filling that hole, either through credits or guarantees or some other means. It's important that we make sure that credit remains available for our smaller businesses, and we're examining ways to do that. So job creation has been and will continue to be our #1 priority in the House, and there's a lot more that we can do and will continue to do. And again, Third Frontier is the key, I think, in the near future. We're looking at a variety of other programs and projects for this year as well. We have made significant investments in education this year. Again, while K-12 education has been cut in many states, we've been able to maintain funding. We've been able to maintain affordability of college tuition for public universities. Again, that comes on the heels of 10 years of average 9% tuition increases prior to 2007. For the first 2 years of Governor Strickland's term, we were able to maintain a freeze on college tuitions in Ohio, and in the current budget for the next 2 years, we've been able to limit increases to 3.5% a year by making sure that colleges and universities here have adequate funding. We are looking at other ways to make sure that middle-class Ohioans can afford to go to school here in Ohio. That's critical to keeping our young people here. One bill that we are working on would make college textbooks more affordable. I'm excited about that bill. It would do things like prohibit bundling of workbooks with CDs. It would make sure that when students return their books, they get a reasonable price back for their books, and it would allow the Chancellor of Higher Education to negotiate e-books on a statewide basis in the hopes of bringing costs down for students in Ohio. We can't overlook the fact that while we have balanced this budget, we are looking at a very difficult budget for the year when we come back in 2011. We all know that the budget's going to be tough. There is stimulus money that may not be available or may not be available in the same amounts that we've had. And in general, we have to continue to look at ways to improve the long-term economic viability for Ohio. In response to that, the Senate President and I are committed to the Budget Planning Commission that we created in the budget that we passed this year. The task for that commission is and will be to review ways that we can put Ohio on strong financial footing going forward and deal with the budget that we're looking at in a little over a year and a half from now. The budget problem that we had this year, we didn't have a lot of time to deal with in advance. We all know what happened with Lehman Brothers in September of 2008. Nobody was anticipating this kind of economic disaster that we had nationally. Much before this year began, we moved into the majority in the House in January and did not have much time at all to be looking at ways to deal with this budget. We got thrown right into it. We don't want to be in that position in January of 2011, and we're going to be spending much of this 2010 year looking at ways to deal with that budget situation going forward. And I'm optimistic that we'll be able to figure out solutions to the problems that we face here in Ohio. So we have a lot to do in 2010, and I'm optimistic that we'll have a good year. And as I said, I think we've had a good year in 2009 in dealing with very, very tough problems. People in the House that have not yet been enacted, we hope to see some of those bills move forward, because I think those bills would help Ohioans. Things like the foreclosure bill that we passed early in 2009, bills like the autism bill that would provide coverage for families with children with autism, and others. And I look forward to working with the Senate on seeing those and other bills through to enactment. I know nobody has any questions, but...
Speaker, on Third Frontier, is there going to be a package that's going to move out of committee today? What will be the size of it? And is there agreement buy-in from the Senate President on the size of it? Because I know he had talked about a little smaller package.
We're prepared to move it out of committee today. I can't tell you whether it will or not yet. I'm meeting with Leader Batchelder later, early this afternoon before the committee meets. I've had conversations with Leader Batchelder. They've been productive and positive, working towards coming up with compromises with the House Republicans first. They've made a number of requests. We're working on language and hopefully working out language with them. Depending on the progress that we've made, we may or may not be in a position to move it out today. If not, we'll do it as soon as we can. I would anticipate it passing the House no later than next week. I am also having a meeting with the Senate President this week on Third Frontier, and as well as some of the other bills that are currently pending, both Senate and House bills. I believe, based on my preliminary conversations with the Senate President, that he too is very committed to seeing the Third Frontier move and trying to break the logjam that's existed in House and Senate legislation.